They are creating the broken system they thought we had by supposedly looking into it or electing Trump or trying to shake it up. And one thing is constructive assessment and reassessment and improvement. It's a completely different thing to like ironically create the very evil you're saying you're trying to defeat.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup.
This is Ashley with Status Coup.
On the ground.
In Philadelphia.
Flint, Michigan. East Palestine, Ohio. Please support the leading independent news outlet on the ground.
Covering what the corporate media covers up. Hello, this is Ashley Bishop with Status Coup. John Freeland and I are on the ground in Florida. We are in downtown Miami right now where there is a Reclaim America 4th of July protest going on right behind us at the Torch of Friendship.
Laws are being ignored. American citizens are being deported. In Florida and across this country, we are witnessing the rise of a new tyranny. Not cloaked in red coats, but wearing red hats. Yesterday, the Republican Party passed what Trump calls his big, beautiful bill. But there is nothing beautiful about it. It is a fundamental betrayal that destroys the social safety net for working families and eliminates food assistance, health care, and housing for millions. To give billionaires a tax break they didn't even ask for and they definitely don't need.
Yeah, my name is Carlos Alvarez Aranjos. I'm the founder of American Opposition. We called for the National Day of Protest on February 5th. We launched on January 26th or 25th. And then we called for the President's Day protest, which became the first No Kings protest. That's what 5051 called it when they partnered with us on that. And we also called for the Tesla boycott in early February 1st or 2nd.
And you had mentioned previously that Elon Musk directed some of his ire at you for that.
Yeah, I was particularly proud that he tweeted that I was evil, because I thought if a Nazi calls you evil, then that means you're good.
I agree with that. So you are from Colorado. You came out here from Colorado, a beautiful state that I used to live in, that I love very much. So that it's wonderful that you showed up for the people of Florida today. So what specifically made you show up here in Florida as opposed to like going to a protest in Colorado on the 4th of July?
Well, Florida's really become an epicenter of the metastasis of Trump. We sometimes think of Trump as an insular problem. But the reality is, all he really is a permission structure for a race to the bottom. And we're seeing that in Florida first, but we're going to see it everywhere in this country. The idea is that if right now we have a country where institutions are strong enough to prevent our politicians and our civil servants from serving themselves primarily. We still have corruption, we still have problems, but they're not foundational to our institutional health. We are on the verge of losing that. And when we do, if we do, then that race is very quick because we are capitalists, which means we're self-interested as a good thing. But if that turns negative and we start pillaging our own institutions for self-benefit, as the city of Miami just extended the term of their commission here by a year. Normally, when you want to move an election from an off year to an on year, you shorten the term, because the voters gave you a term and you take a sacrifice and you say, we want more turnout, so we're going to shorten our term. Here they extended it. That, to me, is an example of the metastasis of that permission structure that allows us now to say, we're just going to serve ourselves. And by the way, there's no Department of Justice that's going to hold us accountable. So what happens if the United States has 3.5 years of politicians and civil servants behaving with impunity? It starts to mirror what I grew up under, which is I grew up under under Balaguer in the Dominican Republic, which is what Trump dreams of being. And frankly, I can tell you, you don't want that to be the reality in the United States. I think this country got spoiled. We didn't recognize that just the fact that we have a mail system that works, that the checks arrive on time, that they always clear. Those are huge achievements of institutionality that we can't surrender. The moment we do, it's impossible to get them back. Institutions, they decline quickly and they don't recover. So we have to be very careful, because the danger of Trump isn't just Trump. The legacy it could leave us is a quid pro quo society where, when I was a kid and I wanted to go get my driver's license, I had to pay off 6 people. And I had to know which order I had to pay him off in, because you didn't want to insult any one of the 6. Otherwise, you weren't going to get a license. And it wasn't at all about driving ability. And so I come from that place, and I just don't want to see this place become like that place, because I left that place precisely because I wanted to operate in a system that was more fair, that where my shots were based on my work and my achievement and my merit. And obviously we're not perfect, and I'm not saying we are, but we also can't lose sight of how good we are. And it's funny because one of the Doge guys just said that he was expecting to find fraud, and he couldn't find it. And to be honest, those of us generally on the left have known that for a long time. The fact that the right still doesn't recognize that they are creating the broken system they thought we had by supposedly looking into it or electing Trump or trying to shake it up. And one thing is constructive assessment and reassessment and improvement. It's a completely different thing to, like, ironically create the very evil you're saying you're trying to defeat by trying to defeat it. I mean, it's a ridiculous situation that the MAGA movement has gotten us into. So I'm here to stand up against that and to make sure that we, A, understand what the stakes are, and B, that we at American Opposition have a very tangible strategy, starting with the protests and the boycotts, but moving on to direct action. We're going to go to congressmen's homes, to their offices, wherever it's legal. We're going to put maximum pressure on these people. We're going to make them feel it the way they're making us feel it, with this big, I call it the huge shitty bill that we saw yesterday.
Sounds like a better name.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything the Republican Party has ever wanted to do in one bill. It's the worst case scenario. And the fact that, like, it's going to impact MAGA voters disproportionately, so they don't even know that they are going to be victims of their own effort, which is really sad, because ultimately we're all humans, and I don't want to see anybody suffer. But in red states, you have much more use of Medicaid, much more use of all of these social safety net facilities, and the fact that these people are willing to cut their noses to spite their faces is really sad, and it speaks again to just a level of callousness, a lack of education, a lot of things we have to fix. But in this moment, the urgent thing is to make sure our institutions don't collapse, because we cannot recover them if they do. And honestly, we can't get past Donald Trump or anything else, let alone if we don't have institutions that are basically functioning.
Support this critically important on-the-ground reporting as a Status Coup member and get great perks. Become a member right here.
It's about control. It's about perpetuating a system that made it so that 8 men own as much wealth as the bottom 4 billion people in humanity. Let me say that again. 8 human beings have as much wealth as the bottom 4 billion people on this planet. And as Trump rolls out his fascist agenda, the eyes of the world turn to Florida. This state has become the epicenter of this battle. As we speak, the first set of inmates are arriving at a concentration camp in the Everglades. Stand up! They call it Alligator Alcatraz, but I call it Alligator Auschwitz. And I want to be clear, being in the United States without documentation isn't a crime. It's a civil offense. In its own rules, ICE claims that immigrant detention is not punitive, because the people who have been put in these facilities have never been charged, tried, or convicted of a crime.
I mean, you're right. It is easier to fix a thing or prevent it from breaking than it is to fix a thing. Right. And I think that people need to fully understand that. The time to protest and to take action isn't after these things have happened. It is before. We need to prevent it. It's like preventative medication. Right. It's easier to keep yourself healthy and prevent you from getting, any kind of illness than it is to fix the illness once it's actually rooted itself inside of you. So I think that that's a really great point. And something that I just want to note for people who are not from Florida and maybe are not as plugged in as you are. We spoke with one of the candidates running for mayor, Ken Russell, a couple days ago. And before coming down here, I actually didn't even know that Miami had canceled their election and, rescheduled it for a year after. So again, it was supposed to be held this November. Right. It will now be held And as you said, the current mayor has extended his stay by a year and a half now.
Without the voters telling them that they could. And ultimately that is an affront to democracy as clear as any other. There's literally nothing lower than that if you're trying to attack democracy. You just gave yourself an extra year on the job. That's an extra year of taxpayer dollars that you're paying yourself, and nobody elected you to do that. And so at least take it to a referendum so that the people can vote on it. And by the way, you can still have that this November, and if they vote you out, then you just get out. But there are 50 ways to do this. But choosing to add a year, that is a function of a permission structure that starts with Trump. It starts with Pam Bondi at the DOJ, where everybody can do anything they want because we're no longer accountable to anybody, and we can just behave with impunity. And here we are in a country where now it's a free-for-all, where every single mayor and every city council, county commission can suddenly start saying, you know what? We really want to add to our salary during our term, which most legislative bodies can't do, and nobody's going to stop them. And so that's the crisis that nobody sees, that I'm trying to warn them about, because I grew up in it. And if we don't see it early, we don't understand the full measure of the problem. We think it's just Trump or just the Republicans in Congress. No. We live in a federal system which protects us against a lot of bad things from the top, but it also means that once things penetrate, it's really hard to root them out because you have to go municipality by municipality and fix it. And honestly, that's a project that nobody ever wants to undertake. So why are we putting ourselves in a position where we're going to have to fix this entire country piece by piece when we all understand that the problem is there? We have to get Trump out of office. That's the cancer. But we also have to prevent metastasis. And you referenced illness. It is a cancer. It's a cancer of ignorance. It's a cancer of hatred. And if we don't cut it out and treat it very quickly, it's going to spiral out of control. And most of the people that are choosing this don't understand what they're choosing. And I don't mind in a democratic system people making different choices than I do, but I want them to understand exactly what choices they're making and what the outcome is going to be. And right now, I just don't feel like anybody understands.
I know that you probably are being beckoned to speak right now, so I'm just going to take one quick note. As far as the mayoral election goes here in Miami, this could become a test case for President Trump in the future. So just want to make a note of that and get your final thoughts on what people can do besides protesting. You mentioned that your organization does more like direct civil disobedience, more actions like that. What would you say, besides everybody showing up for a mass protest? That's great, and I think it's an entryway into doing more actions. What else can people do that really applies pressure in ways that people feel it? Because I think these big protests are too easy to ignore by the powers that be. So what else can we do?
Well, we're building towards a general strike. So the protests are a building block, as are the direct actions, as are all of the different projects. We want to do billboard campaigns. We're calling it the Trump scorecard, where we compare where he was at day one to where he is now, and we put a price for every American, what they've paid for Trump. That kind of awareness needs to happen. And again, we have a strategy, and it's an end-to-end strategy, and we're deploying it, and it's going very well. I want to make sure that people understand that even though it feels very hard, because this is never going to be clean, we are making great progress. And a national strike in the United States is the most difficult political outcome to deliver, just based on where our system is, where our laws are, health and safety, all these concerns about people's employment, etc. You have to deconflict a lot. But it doesn't become possible until millions more Americans start joining us at these protests. And by the way, if you get 50 million people out on the streets and surrounding the White House and surrounding the Capitol peacefully, it will precipitate the end of the Trump administration. Because the thing I can tell you is politicians are the most self-centered human beings on this planet. And if Republicans understand that not only are we going to force them to have an election, but that they will lose it very badly, they're going to change their tune, because they are remarkably self-serving. And that goes for both sides. I don't care who you are. Politicians, that's how they think. So let's capitalize on that. Let's put the fear of God into them. Let's make them fear us more than we fear them. Why are we, 330 some odd million Americans, fearing Donald Trump, an orange clown who literally is the most ridiculous human being anybody's ever been aware of. Like, it's one thing to lose this country to somebody who's effective and talented, and if that were to happen, you could maybe understand it. But to lose it to this guy, it's a joke upon a joke, and it's also a huge kick in the ass to the World War II veterans who fought and died to give us this legacy that we are supposed to move forward to the next generation. And so ultimately, I just think we need to take ourselves more seriously. We need to recognize how spoiled we've become and how lazy we've become. We need to stand up and get out on the streets. Once there's 30 or 50 million of us out on the streets, I promise you the protests will be more effective. They will feel more effective because they will also drive additional actions like direct action. They will also drive a change in the political mindset once campaign season comes around. They will force the midterm elections to happen, which is not a fait accompli right now. So we just need to keep showing up. And frankly, we're so used to like things happening quickly that we have lost the muscle. But we need to retrain that muscle and get better about being responsible for ourselves, for each other, and for our nation, because that's the basic duty of citizenship. And we're just failing badly at it. So I just want to make sure we stop doing that.